Good morning friends, Sat Sri Akal, Adab. This is my 160th video and practically I must be coming after 8-9 months. And the very major heart attack which I came across on 18th October, I thank all those people who wished my speedy recovery. I'm grateful to you and I must thank you from my core of my heart along with my family member. So my daughter finally gave me permission to let me make my videos, and these videos now which will be coming will purely be concentrating on various court cases which I have read through when I was doing a research. Most of them came to me in 2010-11 and they had been in my records, but now since we are going a paperless office in coming 6 months, I'm wanting to dispose of all these cases and files. So today we will pick up a case which is an eye-opener for most of the people. I remember I had been fighting into when Mr. Ranjan Gogoi, the High Court Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana, had marked a CBI inquiry for Firozpur Cantonment for all the sale deeds which took place under a case called Janki Devi versus Cantonment Board, Firozpur. But somehow the president of the Firozpur Cantonment was not willing to listen to my advice and they had their own opinion. And they said, Mr. Das, why should we get heckled? Let Janki Devi or Nanki Devi get heckled. She did illegalities. Well, now I will speak of that. It was an opportunity which came at your door. But we OGB bungalow owners are so well educated, we are so brainless that we esteem ourselves that we are so competent. And sorry, Firozpur people, I know what the CBI inquiry and what finally Ranjan Gogoi passed an order in that in 2014. Later, he had moved to the Supreme Court. Now, this case is of bungalow number 12, survey number 110, Avenue Road, Jabalpur. This is a land which is approximately 4 acres or 3.85. The original owner, Mr. late Phool Chand Mehrotra, whose further son inherited this property called Rameshwar, Dyal Mehrotra, and he had 3 sons naming Ashok, Mukesh and Raj Mehrotra. Now, what is this case? This case is that there were some illegal sales which happened in this 3.85 acres of land. And the 3 inheritors, Ashok, Mukesh and Raj, had done this. Now, how did they do it? So, there was a self-adorned CBI inquiry which was taken up by a CBI officer posted in Jabalpur then, and he, after doing a research, he moved to the court, took permission, and he even made the department executives, the DO, the COs in the passage of about 4-5 years of their postings and new incumbents coming, as well as the CO, as well as the departmental staff, SDO grades and UDC officers, he made them accused. He made all the 3 sons also accused. And finally, a conspiracy, he filed a suit by the permission of the court under section 420, 120B and under the Scandalous Preventions Act 1988. Under section 13, he filed this suit. Now, what is this whole doing? It is actually that Mr. Mehrotra and his 3 sons who inherited Ashok, Mukesh and Raj subsequently sold their property in 3 to 4 intervals. And that money which moved into them was equally distributed between the DOs, COs posted into Jabalpur at that time. This is what so now the first accused during his period, I'm not going to name these officers. Anybody who knows Jabalpur, anybody who's in touch can easily, wake up to this case. It's all available with the CBI and with the court. It's a public document. I'm just trying to not interpret the judgment. I'm trying to tell people this happens. This can happen. So we need to be aware of these happenings. So the first accused sold about 3,000 square feet of land in this to 4 private people. The second accused who came in as DO, he sold during his period approximately 6,100 or 6,200 square feet of land. The third accused, when he came, he sold about 5,900 square feet of land. And during his period, a massive constructions, first, second floors were also made. Friends, when I'm talking of this judgment and in this order, I have physically visited this bungalow myself with my late president, late Deepak ji and late Rishi Patni ji. So now what does the whole case go about? These accused, named 3 and their junior staffs, the SDO grades, and they could have done a lot of doings under Public Premises Act, under the Cantonment Act or the CLA rules. But did they do? So gradually this CBI officer who was there, who was doing a research and who dug into all this, he finally started getting into the evidence of the case. So a document was provided by the department which late Phool Chand ji had made, which is a mortgage deed. Now this is very important. This OGB bungalow number 4 was actually mortgaged. Now most of the cantonment bungalow number 2 was mortgaged. And now what do people say? These bungalows cannot be mortgaged. But it was on 12/7/1939. Now in that mortgage deed there was a line noted that the mortgage is happening by late Mr. Phool Chand, now late, that he is an holder of occupancy rights in this property. Now the department puts up that HOR means that this is a land which belongs to government and he is not the owner of the. Now HOR becomes very important to be defined, but the CBI officer was not briefed. Neither the advocate of Mr. Mehrotra was so well versed about HOR rights. So we leave it here only. Now when this mortgage was done in favor of Allahabad Bank in 1939, so this admission was taken as that this property was held under an HOR right, or where the government is the owner of the property. Then in 1976, the ULC, the Urban Land Ceiling Act, came. Now bungalow number 2, along with its owners, they had to give affidavits, and these accused sitting in the DO office had to make all those verification reports which were assigned by the government under a proper formula, and if any excess land under the ULC had to be resumed back. Now whether that was done or not, that was the second point which was picked up by this officer CBI, that it was not done. So we'll talk of it in the coming. Now there is an SDO grade 2 from the DO's department who is giving a statement. Now he says all this had to be done by the predecessors, DOs, and admission deeds had to be taken, ULC had to be verified, and so on and so on. So these discrepancies were actually being brought forward. Now what happened is, when the first accused was posted, he sold off what I told you about 5,000 square feet of land. So in that sale, whatever money came in, it was equally divided between the department and the owners, that is the Mehrotra brothers. Now the second accused came, he sold off, again the similar things were done. The third accused came, again sales were happened. So finally this officer is moved out, and there is a new superintendent of police, CBI, Mr. Keval Singh. Now he is to take evidence and record everything in this very case. Now the entire case from here changes. Now the case goes to whether these accused now, who are the department officers, are culpable of this criminal conspiracy or not. So the investigation has to move in that direction or not. So now this new officer in the CBI comes up with a story that he takes a statement of one of the accused, which is another DO, that what all letters, correspondence or things happened between. So everything was given on record, that these officers were moving everything on paper, that they were even writing to the senior officers, they were even writing for resumption of this bungalow when illegal sales or unauthorized construction. They even moved in a notice under unauthorized construction 185. Everything was happening, writing to Principal Director Lucknow, whatever could be done, all letters were produced. So what was it? The staff was trying to now save the skin of the officers. That these accused officers during their tenure were trying to do everything. So there was nothing which was a criminal conspiracy towards them. There were some about 37 evidences which came up, number of proofs came in, and one of the government employee who came, named Jaswant Singh, who was working with the DG, even came up with a theory and said that since these officers are appointed by the President of India, nobody can be made a part of a criminal conspiracy till the permission for prosecution is not approved by the President of India alone. Now there is this happening comes up. Well, the CBI officer is also into a detailed discussion and he hands over a lot of documents. This officer is a very important part which I am going to say, hands over the same authentication rules in 1958 or so-called delegation of powers, that nobody below the rank of Under Secretary, Deputy Secretary or Joint Secretary has the power to sign and permit prosecution for these officers on behalf of the President of India. Now understand, when they want to save the skin of their officers, they get this delegation of powers. When they want to do all misdeeds, they don't want to get all this delegation of powers. So friends, please understand, why am I briefing all this? Now, when these exhibits were done, the ULC doing was done by one of the accused. What really did he do? Even the land returns filed during those periods, property returns were being filed by Mr. Mukesh, Ashok and R D Mehrotra. All papers were exhibited as P88, 89, 90 and 91. So when it came down to their evidence of these Mehrotra brothers, they actually confessed that we are a joint property. We are not a separate property. And an admission had come into that these lands were government. Now this is very important under the ULC certificate. Now what does the CBI officer makes a mark on it? He says an admission given, whether it is under the admission deed, registered, or under the ULC, or under cutting of trees, or under cutting any into construction of building plans, or for even house tax assessment, is deemed admission. He finally brings in the GLR, which has been handed over by the DO. So now the present DO who is there makes a statement to the present income CBI officer. Now he again says that since 1968, Mr. Phool Chand, who became the owner of this property, was actually what? Inherited from his forefathers, was an HOR, and we had to take an admission deed which we may not have taken or would have taken. Now how does he counter all this? Here the family members had a sale deed of 1921 which they brought to the CBI, and was testified by the registrar office of 1921 on page number so and so. He said this property was sold by Sir William Dampier Hague and his lady wife Mrs. Hague and his son John Hague to Phool Chand Sharda Prasad, a cloth merchant, Sadar Bazaar, Jabalpur. And nowhere in that sale deed it speaks of a grant or government is the owner or they are the holder of occupancy rights. And very important, 1921 sale deed says the bungalow number was 36, not 2. So why these numbers were changed? You will be surprised to the extent that the CBI officer was not entertaining this document as an exhibit. But on the presentation of the advocate, he was forced to take this 1921 sale deed as an exhibit. And he had to come up and say that yes, the bungalow numbers have changed from bungalow number 36 to bungalow number 2. So friends, we need to work. We need to understand why did the Britishers after the CLA rules or after the Cantonment Act, why after 1910 and the 1923 House Accommodation Act, bungalow numbers were changed, survey numbers were given. There were no survey numbers prior to all this. Please try and understand. I've been racking my head. So the conclusion now given by the CBI officer was that since all the 4 of accused in the department wrote letters, picked up advertisements, did everything for resumption of the bungalow, so there is nothing which works against it. And the sales which were done during one accused were actually done during a period when these accused were not even there. So what are we trying to tell the court? You know, these things become so important, and a very important document, Exhibit 25. It is a letter from the director written to the DO, state officer there. There is no instruction to ask for admission deeds. In this case, it appears that as per rules, there was no obligation to ask for admission deed. Friends, I am racking my head continuously that please, we need to understand. What am I trying to say in this case? This is where I am trying to say. Whether illegal sale was promoted only due to the sealing order by the accused, whether DO, CO staff or by Mr. Mehrotra and the family. So these executions of sale deeds started way back in somewhere in October 1986. Names were given, Mrs. Ram Vikur, then Mr. sometime when some D.O. Balkrishnan was there. You know, another sale deed was done in 11th November 1986. Third sale deed was done way back in 7th January 1987. Similarly, another 4 sale deeds when D.O. Katoch was there. So these periods are changing of sale deeds now. And these sale deeds were not endorsed in the GLR. So these 3 or 4 accused where the research work by one of the CBI officers was being done were not done during their regime. So this evidence actually was trying to save into these officers. And when did this officer came? He came in August 1989. So none of these sale deeds, there are some sale deeds which were during his period, which was to Abdul Salam, another sale deed to Santosh Gupta, then Mrs. Madhubai. So all these sale deeds, now during another officer, there was another sale deed, Radhakrishna Multani, another sale deed was exhibited to Kumari Mehrena, then Saroj Dixit. So what are we all trying? Then Shrimati Munni Devi was given, then Mr. S.S. Thakur was given a property. So all this evidence was during these 3 people. The earlier ones were during the other officers' period and they were not made co-accused. So now basically these officers were being saved. Now A officer came in 89, the other one came in 93, the other one came in somewhere else. So periods were changing. So we can't say that this was not going on from the predecessor's time. So culminate to this fact that this bungalow, 3.85 acres, bungalow number 2, was sold to some 12-14 people at a period from 86 to 90, let's put it 5. All these sale deeds were exhibited. Who all were posted or not posted is not the question. So, now the department and the CBI officer is coming to the thought of willingness. Were these officers willing to connive? Were they showing some aggression? No, he says this was already happening in this bungalow number 2. And they had written letters to the department for these wrongdoings and various things. But he is moving out to that fact that he admitted this property under inheritance without taking admission deeds. Now for that he says there is an exhibit P25 which says the Director General is saying that there is no procedure for taking admission deed. So the CBI actually gives into a free chat, I would call it. So where are we? We are nowhere. Now since these accused had to be given a free chat, in guise, even the Mehrotra's got a free chat. The case finally got abruptly debunked. Nothing happened. Sales permissions whether registered, whether not registered, whether illegal or whether what is happening. Everything was taken away. The whole case finally came down to an argument later on that the man who was investigating the case and the earlier man, they were the co-accused in this case subsequently. So how can a co-accused be even examining a case and finally delivering his opinion or an report on it? So these kind of things went into the technicalities of this case. So Sub-Inspector V.K. Singh Samay was not an accused, and the cases were further remitted to the thought that the Deputy Superintendent of Police of the CBI Jabalpur, the earlier one was doing a research, the later one was not entrusted. How could all this happen? And there was no written application from either side whether this case is to be done. So everything went into technicalities, I would put it. And somewhere an eyewash was being given on, and everybody was removed from these culpable criminal conspiracy. The records which were collected during this or seized were moreover returned back to the department. When an appeal could have been filed, nobody actually came forward because everybody was released. So nobody knows what really happened, whether this bungalow actually went into some kind of happening or not. So that is why I am asking, what is the status? I have been talking to Mr. Mehrotra. Are those 12-8 people have been redundant? Either the bungalow has been resumed? What has the Ministry of Defence done? Or is the property being enjoyed by everybody even today? All this needs to be seen. And once this is all done, then only we can come up with a conclusion whether CBI inquiries or any of these kind of inquiries will actually give us some relief or not. But the most important crux of this case was the 1921 sale deed and exhibit P25. So friends, please, this is very important and these cases will be coming up. Now I am in the last, as I have generally been saying, that we finally in our YouTube channel have achieved 1000 subscribers, and we've been having a lovely YouTube viewers time. I want that most of you people should join in. And my slogan, we are a grant, specifically old grant, never converted into a new grant because we were revenue free grants. Where is it written? Read the Governor General orders from 1765 till 1859. Thank you. Bye-bye.